Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank are considering a merger that's supposed to be a rescue for both banks. But many are critical of using two struggling lenders who also happen to be Germany's largest banks. Now, Deutsche Bank is in 15th place internationally, currently sitting on assets of around $1.5 trillion. That's far behind the Chinese bank ICBC and the largest U.S. bank, JP Morgan Chase. And Commerzbank is in 53rd place down there with an asset sheet of just under $500 billion. So if Germany's two biggest banks were to merge, they would move up to 10th place internationally. But the problems will hardly be going away. Jobs and branches will have to be cut just to make things work out.
The government is pushing for a merger between Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank as it wants to create a German mega-bank to compete with global investment lenders. German Finance Minister Olaf Scholz has urged Deutsche Bank chief Christian Sewing and Commerzbank head Martin Sielke to consider joining forces. Critics warn the merger could be complicated. The banks say they are moving with caution. We will only merge with Commerzbank if it makes economic sense. That's important to us. That requires a good plan, above all, a good integration plan. We will work this out together with Commerzbank, and when we have the results, then we will decide. The outcome of these merger talks could go either way. We will need some time because it's more important for us to be thorough than it is to be quick. What's important is that we are and will remain a global bank with a leading position in the German and European markets. We can possibly expand this leading position with a merger with Commerzbank. Both banks say the merger would lead to enormous cost savings. The German trade union Verdi has warned that cost-cutting measures, such as closing branches, could lead to up to 30,000 lost jobs.
And let's talk about this now with our Frankfurt correspondent, Konrad Busen. Konrad, how do investors view these talks?
Well, Stephen, the immediate reaction of the share prices this morning is positive, which might, of course, be the usual reflex of early traders to buy shares when they hear words like cost savings, job cuts, consolidation in a sector. Whether or not investors, shareholders, also the financial community here in Frankfurt becomes a friend of the idea remains to be seen. Of course, the big question is, does one weak bank plus another weak bank equal a strong one?
Absolutely. And in that vein, what are the risks and opportunities of creating a big bank like this?
Well, in terms of opportunities, of course, the idea is that a larger bank would have a larger market share, that all this would also allow the new bank to increase profit margins, which is really a problem for the bank. Remember, Germany's banking sector is really overbanked. We have about 1,800 separate banks here in the country. That's density of banks far higher than in comparable countries like, for example, France, the United Kingdom, etc. So, of course, profit margins could be increased. On the other hand, of course, this would certainly create a bank too big to fail. If this new big bank had a problem in the future, the only instance, the only lender of last resort could be the taxpayer. And remember how, our government told us after the last financial crisis that never again this were to happen. Never again the taxpayer should have to bail out a bank.
And briefly, Konrad, does that mean that this is a done deal, that now these talks are taking place and the government seems to be behind it?
No, it's not at all a done deal. Christian Sewing, the chief of Deutsche Bank, wrote in a letter to all of the employees of Deutsche Bank who found this letter in their inboxes this morning that this will only happen if it makes economic sense. And let me tell you, the most plausible or also one of the explanations I found and heard here this morning in Frankfurt among people at the stock exchange was they say Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank are only entering those talks now to be able to end them as quickly as they can without a merger.
All right, so a lot of speculation surrounding these talks. Konrad Busen there for us in Frankfurt. Thank you, Konrad.